I used that platform almost every night. That's important, because nothing about it ever felt strange before. I worked late shifts downtown, and by the time I caught the train home, the station was usually half asleep. Not abandoned, just quiet in the way public places get when they're waiting for morning. The same flickering fluorescent lights, the same cracked yellow safety line, the same metal bench cold even in summer. Routine makes places invisible. You stop noticing them. The platform sat between two neighborhoods, neither busy enough to stay alive past midnight. Most nights, there were one or two other commuters. Sometimes none. That night, it was just me. I remember checking my phone when I stepped onto the platform. Jam sebelas, lewat 47 menit PM. The last train always arrived at 12:02. I leaned against the railing, earbuds in, volume low. Not listening to music, just enough noise to break the silence. The tracks hummed faintly beneath my feet, normal. I didn't notice anything wrong until I took my earbuds out. The station was quieter than it should have been. Not just empty, muted. No distant traffic. No wind moving through the tunnel. No echo from the other end of the platform. It felt like sound didn't want to travel. I shifted my weight, and the concrete scraped softly under my shoe. That sound carried perfectly, too. Perfectly. I glanced down the platform, empty, all the way to the far stairwell. I told myself I was overthinking it. Night shifts mess with your head. Your brain fills in gaps when it's tired. I checked my phone again. 11:53 p.m. That's when I heard it at first. I thought it was an announcement. The PA system crackles sometimes, especially late at night. Old wiring. Faulty speakers, but this didn't crackle. It didn't echo. It was close. Hey. The voice came from behind me, calm, neutral, like someone trying to get your attention without startling you. I turned. Immediately, no one was there. The bench was empty. The stairwell behind me was dark. No footsteps. No movement. I laughed quietly to myself. Out loud, it sounded too loud in the empty space. Get it together, I muttered. I put one earbud back in, but before I could press play, hey. Same voice, same tone, same distance. My stomach tightened. This time, I didn't turn round right away. I stood very still, listening. The sound hadn't come from the stairs. It hadn't come from the tracks. It sounded like it had come from the platform itself. I slowly turned my head. Still no one. I stepped closer to the yellow line, peering down the tracks. Nothing but darkness stretching into the tunnel. No reflection, no silhouette, no movement. I pulled my phone out and checked the time. Again, 11:58 p.m., 4 minutes until the train. I told myself. I'd imagined it. That exhaustion had filled in a voice where there wasn't one. That happens, especially when you expect someone to be there. I leaned back against the railing, tried to relax, tried not to listen too closely. That's when the voice spoke again. This time, it said my name, not shouted, not whispered, just spoken like it had always known it. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. The station felt suddenly very small. No announcement system had ever said my name before, and even if it could, it wouldn't sound like that. The voice came again, closer now. Hey, you missed it last night. My heart started pounding. I had missed the train the night before. I'd stayed late and ended up taking a rideshare home. No one at work knew that. No one on the platform could have known that. I turned slowly. Every muscle in my body felt tight. Ready to run. The platform was still empty. But the silence felt different now. Occupied, I backed toward the stairs without taking my eyes off the tracks. I didn't want to hear it. Again, I didn't want to give it time. That's when the lights flickered just once. And from somewhere, behind the platform wall somewhere, the sound shouldn't have been able to come from. I heard the voice. Again, closer, clearer, clearer, double quotes. Don't worry, it said. The train's coming. Asterisk, I didn't run. That still surprises me when I think about it. Every instinct told me to move, to put distance between myself and whatever had just spoken. But my legs didn't listen. They locked in place, like the platform itself had decided I should stay. The light steadied after that brief flicker. Everything looked the same, too much the same. The bench, the yellow line, the dark mouth of the tunnel waiting for the train. But the space felt crowded now. Even though I was still, alone, my phone buzzed in my hand. I hadn't realized I was gripping it that tightly. 12:01. M.1 minute until the train arrived. I swallowed and finally spoke. Who's there? My voice echoed faintly, then disappeared into the station like it had been swallowed. No footsteps answered, no movement, just silence, and then a sound behind me. Not a voice this time, breathing, slow, controlled, close. Enough that I felt it more than heard it. I spun around, still no one, but the air behind me felt warmer, heavier, like someone had just stepped back into the dark. I backed toward the stairs. Again, that's when I noticed something I hadn't before. The stairwell gate was down. That wasn't right. It was never closed this early. The gate only came down after the last train had left. I stared at it, my mind scrambling for a rational explanation. Maintenance, a mistake, bad timing. Hey, the voice said again, not behind me this time, from the far end of the platform. I turned slowly at the edge of the light. Just before the darkness took over, something stood near the tunnel entrance, not fully in shadow, not fully in light at first. I thought it was just a person, waiting farther down. Then I realized they weren't standing where passengers stood. They were past the safety line, on the gravel. You don't have to stand so close to the edge, the voice said. It sounded almost concerned. My chest felt tight. Who are you? I asked. The question felt pointless the moment it left my mouth. The figure didn't move, didn't step forward, didn't step back. I see you here every night, it said calmly. Same spot, same time. That was true. I always stood there, right where I was standing now. The tunnel began to hum. Low at first, then louder. The sound of the train approaching. Relief washed through me so fast it almost made me dizzy. Whatever this was, whatever was happening, it would end when the train arrived. Public space again. People, noise. The figure shifted slightly, not walking, leaning. You always look down. The tracks first, it continued. Like you're checking if it's real. My heart slammed against my ribs. I hadn't told anyone that I'd never even thought about it consciously. It was just something I did. The train lights appeared in the tunnel, twin white points, cutting. Through the dark, the wind kicked up. Rushing past me, I took a step back from the edge. The figure didn't. "You should get on quickly tonight," the voice said. "It doesn't like waiting." The train roared into the station. Metal screamed against metal. The lights flooded the platform. For a split second, the entire space was illuminated. The figure was gone. No one stood on the gravel. No one stood anywhere. The doors slid open. People stepped out. Tired faces, phones in hands. Normal commuters. I stepped onto the train, without thinking. Didn't look back. Didn't hesitate. The doors closed behind me as the train pulled away. I finally let myself breathe. My hands were shaking. My reflection in the window looked pale and unfamiliar. That's when I noticed something. On the glass, fogged slightly from the cold night air, were fingerprints. Not smeared, not messy, placed carefully at shoulder height, right where someone would have been standing beside me. I wiped the glass with my sleeve. The prints vanished. The reflection stared. Backdot alone. I stopped using that platform after that night. Took longer routes, different trains, earlier shifts. I told myself it was just caution, but sometimes, when I'm standing on a crowded platform elsewhere, with trains rushing in and people packed shoulder to shoulder, I hear it again. Not my name, not yet, just a calm voice, somewhere behind me, saying, "Wrong platform." I didn't start using that station by choice. It was temporary. Construction shut down my usual stop, and the transit authority redirected everyone to a smaller platform a few blocks away. Same line, same trains, just older, that's what they said. The station sat lower than the surrounding streets, hidden between concrete walls, stained black from years of passing trains. It felt like something left behind when the city decided it no longer needed it. One bench, one flickering digital sign, no ticket booth, no security office. Still, people used it, at least during the day. I worked overnight security at a warehouse and finished my shift just after midnight. The last train home was my only option, unless I wanted to spend half my paycheck on rideshares. According to the sign, the final train arrived at 12:14 a.m. every night for the first week. It came exactly on time. Same low hum from the tunnel, same screech of brakes, same tired faces stepping on and off. Routine makes you careless. The night everything changed felt no different at first. I stepped onto the platform at 12:08, hands in my pockets, phone at 9% battery. There was no one else waiting. That wasn't unusual. Most people avoided the last train. The air felt heavier than usual, still, like the station was holding onto sound instead of letting it echo. I checked the digital sign. Last train, 12:14 at 12:13. The tunnel began to hum. That familiar vibration rolled through the concrete, up through my feet and into my chest. I stepped back behind the yellow line. Automatically, that's when I noticed how fast the sound was approaching. Too fast. The headlights appeared, bright, blinding. I waited for the brakes. They never screamed. The train tore through the station without slowing. Wind slammed into me, snapping my jacket, kicking dust into my face. The cars blurred past, windows flashing too fast to see inside. Then it was gone. The silence afterward felt wrong, thick, unnatural. I stood there, stunned, trying to process what had just happened. Trains missed stops sometimes. Sure, but not like that. Not without slowing. Not without an announcement. Not without warning. I checked the sign again. Still read, last train 12, 14I. Laughed under my breath. Nerves, that had to be it. Maybe it wasn't my train then. I noticed the lights on the opposite platform. That side wasn't in service. No bench, no stairs. No sign, just concrete and darkness beyond the tracks. But someone was standing there. A single figure, perfectly still, facing the tunnel. I frowned and leaned closer to the edge. "Hey," I called out. "Did one just blow past too?" No reaction. The figure didn't turn. Didn't shift. Didn't even seem to breathe. The tunnel hummed again. Another train, slower this time. Right, relief. Crept in. This one would stop. The headlights appeared, growing steadily brighter. The figure across the tracks stepped closer to the edge. "Just a little. Careful," I called. "That one's stopping." The train entered the station. Brakes, screamed. Metal. Shrieked. It slowed perfectly and stopped. But not on my side. It stopped at the opposite platform. The doors slid open. No one got off. No one got on. The figure stepped forward calmly and entered the train. The doors closed. The train pulled away. The digital sign behind me flickered. Then changed. No further service. My phone buzzed. Low battery. The station felt very empty. All of a sudden, that's when I noticed. The old schedule posted on the wall faded. YELLOWED.I. Hadn't looked at it before. It listed the last train, 12:07 a.m. *. I stared at that old schedule for a long time, longer than made sense. Like if I kept reading it, the numbers might rearrange themselves into something less final. They didn't. 12:07 a.m. Printed in faded ink, official, unambiguous. I checked my phone. Again, 12:23. The train that had torn through the station without slowing it hadn't been early. It hadn't been late. It had been on time. The one that stopped wasn't on the schedule at all. Felt the station change around me. Not physically, emotionally, like a place that had finished, serving its purpose and was now waiting for me to leave. Backed away from the tracks and headed for the stairs. That's when I noticed something I hadn't before. The gate at the top of the stairwell was already halfway down. That didn't make sense either. Those gates only lowered after the station officially closed. After the last scheduled train, I broke into a jog. The air felt heavier with every step upward, like the station didn't want to let go of me just yet. I reached the top and pushed through the gate, forcing it open just enough to slip out. The moment my feet hit street level, the pressure vanished. I didn't stop walking until I was 3 blocks away, then 5. Then home. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the opposite platform, the figure standing just past the safety line, waiting the next day. Curiosity got the better of me. I searched the station online, transit, records, archived news articles, anything. It didn't take long. The station had partially closed years Earlier, after a late-night accident, a train overshot the platform, didn't slow, didn't stop. Passengers waiting on the opposite side had assumed it was delayed. Some stepped too close to the tracks. Some crossed where they shouldn't have. By the time authorities arrived, the station was empty. No witnesses, no bodies found. On dash site, just one detail that kept repeating in the reports. Several people claimed they had boarded a train, one that wasn't scheduled, one that stopped only briefly. Transit officials denied it, said no such train existed, said no record of it could be found. But maintenance logs told a different story. Occasionally, sensors would register a stop at that platform after hours. Doors opening, doors closing. No passengers logged, no conductor report filed. They labeled it a system. ERROR. I stopped using that station immediately, took buses instead, walked farther, paid more. Didn't matter. Weeks passed, then months. The memory dulled just enough for routine to settle back in. Until one night, standing on a different platform across town, waiting for a late train home. Crowded this time. People everywhere, phones, glowing dots, conversations murmuring. I checked the digital sign. Last train 1218. The tunnel hummed. The train approached slower than expected. That's when I heard a voice beside me. .com.neutral. Familiar. You're early tonight. I didn't turn my head. I didn't need to, because across the tracks, on a platform that wasn't in service, someone was standing perfectly still, past the yellow line, waiting. And this time, the schedule behind me flickered just for a moment. Unscheduled STR. Train lights grew brighter, closer. I stepped back, away from the edge, away from the figure dot, away from the idea that trains only go where they're supposed to. The brakes screamed. The train slowed. And for the first time since that night, it didn't stop. I didn't notice him right away. That's what bothers me the most now. The station was busy enough to feel safe. Not crowded, but alive. Late evening commuters. People checking phones. A couple arguing quietly near the stairs. It was one of those platforms where you don't expect anything strange to happen because too many people are around. For it to feel possible, I took my usual spot near the middle of the platform, same place every night. Close enough to the sign to read the times, far enough from the edge to feel comfortable. The digital board read, next train 9:41 p.m. 3 minutes. I leaned against a pillar and scrolled through my phone, barely paying attention to anything around me. The sound of distant trains echoed through the tunnels, overlapping voices blending into background noise. Normal. That's when the crowd shifted, not dramatically, just enough for me to notice the space beyond the tracks, on the other side of the platform, past the rails, past the concrete divider, past the warning signs. Someone was standing where no one should have been. At first, I assumed they were a worker. Maintenance. Sometimes walked the tracks after hours, but then I realized a few things very quickly. They weren't wearing reflective gear, they weren't carrying tools, and they weren't moving. They stood completely still, just beyond the tracks, in the narrow strip of concrete that led toward a sealed service tunnel, facing the platform, facing us. I felt a brief flash of concern, not fear, concern, like noticing someone standing too close to traffic. I looked around, expecting someone else to react. No one did. People stood, chatting, scrolling, laughing. No one else seemed to see him. I looked back. He was still there, same posture, same distance, still facing us. The lights flickered briefly as a train passed through the lower tunnel. When they steadied, he hadn't moved. I checked the sign again. Next, TRAIN, 9:41 p.m. NOW. Flashing dot, almost here. A woman beside me stepped closer to the edge. I opened my mouth to say something, to warn her, to point him out. Then I noticed something that stopped me cold. He wasn't looking at everyone. He was looking at me, not staring, not glaring, just aligned, light wherever I moved. His position matched mine. I took a small step to the left. He adjusted slightly. My chest tightened. I told myself it was coincidence, perspective, angles. I leaned forward, trying to see his face. The lighting beyond the tracks was worse than I'd thought. His features stayed hidden, swallowed by shadow, but I could tell he was smiling, not wide, not obvious, just enough. I stepped back. Abruptly, he didn't follow. He didn't need to. The tunnel. HUMMED. The train was approaching. Wind rushed through the station, tugging at coats and hair. People moved closer to the yellow line, the man beyond. The tracks finally moved. He stepped forward, not onto the tracks, across them. My heart lurched. He crossed where no one could cross, that fast between the rails, over the barrier. Without hesitation, he stopped just short of the platform edge, still not touching the yellow line, still smiling. I heard my own voice before I realized I was speaking. Can't be there. He tilted his head, just slightly. Then he spoke. You're standing where I used to. The train lights burst into the tunnel, white, blinding. Someone bumped into me from behind. I stumbled forward, just a step. When I looked back, he was gone. No one screamed, no one reacted. Train pulled in, doors opened, people boarded. Life continued. I stood frozen, staring at the place beyond the tracks where he'd been standing, empty, harmless. But the spot where he'd crossed, the gravel was disturbed, fresh as if someone had walked there recently. I didn't get on that train. I stepped back from the platform as people surged forward, letting the crowd swallow the space where he'd been standing. No one noticed me. No one asked why I stayed behind. I stood there long after the train left. The platform emptied gradually, conversation fading until only the station's hum remained. The spot beyond the tracks stayed, empty, still, ordinary. I told myself I'd imagined him, the smile, the way he crossed so easily, the words he spoke, stress, fatigue, too many late nights. The next evening, I came back. I don't know why. Habit. Maybe or the need to prove something. I took the same spot on the platform, same pillar, same distance from the edge. I watched the area beyond the tracks carefully. Nothing. The train arrived on time. I rode home without incident for a week. Everything felt normal again. Almost then, I noticed something strange. People avoided standing where I usually did. Not obviously, not consciously. They just drifted away from that section of the platform, leaving a thin pocket of empty space around it. I tried standing elsewhere, near the stairs, near the far end. It felt wrong, like the place was pulling me back. One night, curiosity won. I stayed after the last train. Left, the station closed, lights dimmed, the platform emptied. I stood, alone, listening, waiting. The lights on the far side flickered. I felt it before I saw it. That same awareness. He stood beyond the tracks again. Same posture, same smile. You came back, he said calmly. I didn't mean to, I replied. That was the truth. He glanced at the platform edge. People don't like standing there anymore, he said. It's uncomfortable. What happened to you? I asked. The question came out before I could stop it. His smile faded, just a little. I waited too long, he said. I trusted the wrong train. I felt cold despite the warm air. Dead, he shook his head slowly. No, he said. I just never left. He stepped closer to the tracks. Not crossing this time, just standing where the light reached him better. I saw his face clearly then. Not injured, not decayed, just wrong. Like someone slightly out of place in time. People stand where I stood, he continued. They get tired, distracted, they stop paying attention. The tunnel, HUMMED, another train, not scheduled. Sometimes, he said softly. They hear me. The train lights appeared, slower than they should have been. He smiled again. I only stand here now, he said, so someone else doesn't have to. The train roared past without stopping. Wind tore through the dust. Station. Dust rose. The lights flickered. When everything steadied, he was gone. The platform felt lighter, relieved. I never stood in that spot again. Never waited too close to the edge. Never ignored the feeling when a place felt wrong. Weeks later, a notice went up. A memorial plaque near the stairs, small, easy to miss. It listed a name, a date, a brief description. In memory of a passenger lost after falling onto the tracks. The date matched the year the station had been renovated, the year the safety barriers were installed, the year he stopped leaving. Sometimes, when I'm waiting on a platform late at night and the crowd thins out, I feel a presence beside me, not threatening, not close, watching. And when the train approaches too fast, I step back, because I know someone is still standing beyond the tracks, making sure I don't take his place. I was already late when the announcement played. That's the only reason I noticed it. The station was crowded in that tired, end-of-day way. Not loud, not energetic. Just people waiting with the patience of routine. Phones glowing. Backpacks at their feet. Eyes on the digital board. I stood near the center of the platform, watching the time tick down. Next, TRAIN, 6:32 p.m.T. WO minutes. Late, the PA system crackled overhead. I barely looked up. It did that all the time, static bursts. Half words, occasional delays that no one really listened to anymore. Attention. Passengers. The voice was clear. To clear. People shifted slightly, the way they always do when an announcement starts. A few heads lifted. Someone sighed. I waited for the rest. Please stand clear of the platform edge. Normal. Expected. Then the voice continued. Except you. I felt a jolt of confusion. The words didn't echo. They didn't distort. They landed cleanly, as if spoken right above my head. A few people laughed quietly, nervous, uncertain laughter. Someone muttered, "What was that?" I looked around, expecting a reaction. People were glancing at each other, smiling awkwardly, unsure whether it had been a glitch or a joke. The digital board flickered next, TRAIN, 6:32 p.m. NOW. Flashing, the PA crackled again. Same voice, same tone. Please remain calm. The platform shifted. More heads turned upward now. The announcement had everyone's attention. Passengers, waiting for the inbound train. A pause. Not long, just deliberate. Should continue to wait. The voice stopped. The silence afterward felt heavier than it should. Have. Someone clapped sarcastically. A ripple of uneasy laughter followed. Guess they're testing something, a man near me said. I nodded automatically. That made sense. Testing. It had to be that the train lights appeared in the tunnel. Relief swept across the platform like a wave. People moved closer to the edge, readying bags. Shifting weight. The PA system spoke again. Passenger in the grey jacket. I felt my stomach drop. That was me. I didn't look up, didn't move. I waited for the voice to finish. Please take one step back. The platform went quiet. Not silent, quiet. Someone behind me whispered, "Is that you?" I didn't answer. The train slowed as it entered the station. Brakes screamed. Wind rushed past. I stepped back, just one step. The voice returned immediately, satisfied, double quotes, "Thank you." The doors opened. People boarded. Life resumed. No one said anything. Not to me, not to each other. I got on the train without thinking, heart pounding, mind racing. I told myself it was coincidence, a lucky guess, a delayed script matching my jacket color. But as the train pulled away, I noticed something that made my blood run cold. On the opposite platform, mounted high on the wall, was a small security camera. Its lens wasn't pointed at the crowd. It was pointed directly at me. I didn't mention the announcement to anyone that night. Not on the train. Not when I got home. Not even to myself, really. I told myself what everyone else had silently agreed on, that it had been a system test, a glitch, a badly timed announcement that landed wrong. That explanation worked. For exactly one day, the next evening, I found myself standing on the same platform again. The same time, same route, same grey jacket. I hadn't planned it that way. I told myself I was watching for patterns, that if it really had been a test, it wouldn't happen again. The station was quieter than the night before, less crowded, more space between people. I took my usual spot near the center of the platform. Far enough from the edge. The digital board read, "Next train, 6:34 p.m. Time." I scanned the ceiling. The camera was still there, still angled downward, still pointed directly at where I stood. I shifted slightly to the left. The camera didn't move. The PA system remained silent. No static, no pre-recorded warnings, just the hum of electricity and distant trains. I relaxed a little. Maybe too much. That's when I noticed the plaque. It was small, bolted to the wall near the stairs. I hadn't seen it before. Most people wouldn't dot it. Blended in with the concrete. I stepped closer and read it in memory of a passenger lost. Here, please stand clear of the platform. Edge, no name, no date. Just that. The wording felt deliberate, like it wasn't meant to comfort anyone, just to instruct. The PA crackled overhead. I didn't flinch this time. Attention passengers. The voice was the same, clear, calm, neutral. Thank you for your cooperation yesterday. The platform went still. Not everyone noticed, but enough people did that the air changed. I felt heat crawl up my neck. My mouth went dry. The voice continued. The platform remains within acceptable limits. Someone near the stairs frowned. What the hell does that mean? He muttered. The digital board flickered. Next, TRAIN, 6:34 p.m. NOW. Flashing. The train lights appeared in the tunnel. Bright fast. The PA spoke one final time. Please continue to observe. Posted guidance. A pause. Then passenger in the grey jacket. My heart slammed. I stepped back instinctively before the voice finished. Silence. The train roared into the station. Brakes screamed. Wind tore through the platform. I stayed exactly where I was, far from the edge. The doors opened. People boarded. People exited. Life continued. No one looked at me. No one said a word. As I stepped onto the train, I glanced back at the platform, at the camera, at the plaque. For the first time, I noticed something engraved beneath the metal plate. Small top faded. Easy to miss. Automated safety override. Active A didn't take that route again. Changed trains. Changed schedules. Changed stations. But sometimes, when I'm waiting somewhere new and the platform feels too crowded, too close, too unpredictable, I hear the PA crackle, not speaking, just listening, and I remember that night, how it didn't warn everyone, just the person standing in the wrong place. Midnight platforms have a different rhythm. You don't really notice it until you're alone on one. During the day, stations feel alive, constant motion, overlapping conversations. The sense that someone is always watching, even if they aren't. At night, that disappears. The platform becomes a place that exists only for you, and whatever arrives next. I worked late shifts for years, so waiting for trains after midnight wasn't unusual. I knew which stations emptied out first, which ones stayed busy, and which ones became completely still. This one fell into the last category. It sat just outside the city center, too far for most people to walk to, too inconvenient for anyone who didn't have to use it. After 12:30 a.m., it was usually empty. That night was no different. I stepped onto the platform. At 12:41 a.m., the digital board glowed weakly above me. Next, TRAIN, 12:58. 17 minutes. I chose a spot near the middle. Not too close to the stairs, not too close to the edge. Same logic I always used. Balanced, I leaned against a pillar and checked my phone. No messages. Low battery. No signal underground. The station lights buzzed softly overhead. Every few seconds, one flickered, not enough to go out. Just enough to remind you how old the place was. I didn't feel watched, not at first. The sensation crept in slowly. The way discomfort does when your body notices something your brain hasn't caught up to yet. That subtle awareness that the space around you isn't as empty as it should be. I looked down the platform, empty, all the way to the tunnel mouth. I looked the other direction. Stairs, closed gate, darkness beyond. I told myself it was nothing. Late nights do that. Silence stretches. Your senses overcorrect. I put my phone away and focused on the tracks. That's when I heard it. Breathing, not loud, not close enough to feel, just present. I turned sharply. No one. The sound stopped immediately. I laughed under my breath, embarrassed at myself. Old ventilation system, I decided. Air moving through tunnels can sound like anything when you're tired. I checked the board again. Next train. 12:56, 2 minutes had passed. The breathing returned. This time, it didn't stop when I turned around. It wasn't coming from behind me. It wasn't coming from the stairs. It was coming from the other side of the platform, directly across the tracks. I stepped closer to the edge, squinting into the shadows. The lighting over there was worse half. The bulbs were out, leaving long sections of darkness between pools of yellow light. At first, I thought I was looking at a shadow. Then the shadow shifted. Someone was standing there, not on the platform, beyond it, in the narrow space between the tracks and the wall. They weren't pacing. They weren't hiding. They were just there, facing me. My chest tightened. I waved instinctively. "Hey," I called. "You can't be down there." The breathing stopped. The figure didn't move, didn't respond, didn't step away from the tracks. I noticed something else then. They weren't looking at me the way people look at each other. Their head was tilted, slightly upward, like they were listening for something above us. The tunnel, HUMMED, a distant vibration. The train was approaching. The figure took one step forward, not onto the tracks, not toward the wall, the platform edge. I took a step back. My heart pounded. "Hey," I said again, louder now. "Get out of there." The figure lifted their head. For just a moment, the light caught their face, and I realized they weren't watching the train. They were watching me. I didn't move. Neither did the figure. The distance between us felt wrong to deliberate, like we were both waiting for the same cue. The tunnel hummed louder now. The vibration rolled through the platform, up through my feet, into my chest. The train was close. The figure shifted its weight, not stepping forward, not stepping back, just adjusting, the way someone does when they're getting ready. "You shouldn't be there," I said again. My voice sounded thin in the open space. Figure finally spoke, not loudly, not urgently. I know the sound of their voice settled into me like a weight. It wasn't distorted. It wasn't unnatural. It sounded tired. "Just don't like standing on the platform anymore," they continued. "I did that for a long time." I felt cold spread across my arms. "What are you talking about?" I asked. They glanced down the tracks. "I waited here every night," they said. "Same spot you're standing in now." The train lights appeared in the tunnel. Bright, too bright. "You get used to the edge," the figure went on. "You stop feeling how close it is." The wind began to rush through the station as the train approached. Dust lifted from the tracks. Paper skittered along the concrete. Slipped, they said calmly. No one saw it happen. My heart slammed. The figure stepped closer to the platform edge, not climbing, not crossing, just standing, directly below where I was. They shut the station. For a few hours, they continued. Cleaned it up, fixed the lights. The train roared into the station. Brakes screamed. Metal shrieked. I stayed, they said. The train slowed, too slowly. I backed away from the edge. Every instinct screamed at me to run. But my legs felt heavy, rooted. I don't stand on the platform anymore, the figure said. It feels safer down here. The train rushed past without stopping. Wind slammed into me, nearly knocking me over. The lights flickered violently. When the air finally settled, the figure was gone. The platform was empty again. Truly empty this time. The digital board flickered, then updated next. TRAIN 122. IA didn't wait for it. I left the station and walked the entire way home. Didn't look back, didn't slow down. The next day, I searched for information about that station. Accidents, closures, anything. I found a brief article buried deep in local news. Archives, a late-night incident. A passenger slipped from the platform edge while waiting alone, declared dead at the scene. No witnesses, the article mentioned. One detail I couldn't shake. After the cleanup, maintenance workers reported hearing breathing near the tracks late at night. They dismissed it as ventilation. Stopped taking the midnight train after that. Changed shifts, changed routes, changed habits. But sometimes, when I'm standing on a platform late at night and the crowd thins out, I hear it, not breathing, not footsteps. A calm voice from somewhere below saying, "Careful," and I always step back. I didn't know the station was closed. That's the truth. There were no barricades, no warning signs, no locked gates, just fewer lights than usual and a platform that felt slightly unfinished. I'd missed my usual train after working late, and the app rerouted me automatically. Same line, different stop. It was only 2 stations farther than normal, but I'd never gotten off there before. The name sounded familiar, like a place I'd heard about but never visited. The train slowed and stopped. The doors opened. No one else got off. I hesitated for a moment, then stepped onto the platform. The doors closed behind me. The train pulled away, and the silence settled in immediately. The station was narrow and unusually deep underground. The ceiling was lower than most, and the lights were spaced farther apart, leaving long stretches of dimness between them. There was no digital board, just a printed schedule, taped to the wall. I checked my phone, no signal, no service. The app refreshed. Endlessly, I walked toward the stairs. That's when I noticed something wrong. The stairs led up, but there were no exit signs, no maps, no station name posted anywhere. I stopped halfway up and looked back at the platform from that angle. It felt longer than it should have been, like the far end was farther away. Now, I told myself it was just perspective, old. Stations weren't built like newer ones. I reached the top of the stairs. The gate was closed, not locked, just pulled down. Halfway, I lifted it easily and stepped through. The moment my foot hit the concrete beyond the gate, The lights behind me dimmed. I turned around. The platform lights hadn't gone out. They'd shifted. Every light now pointed downward, toward the tracks. The station felt attentive. I hurried down the stairs again. The platform was empty, too. Empty. The bench sat alone under one working light. No trash. No posters. No signs of recent use. I checked the printed schedule. The paper was YELLOWED. Edges curled. The last update date printed at the bottom stopped me cold. Service suspended. Effective immediately. Dated 7 years ago. My chest tightened. I stepped back and scanned the platform. Still no signs, warning. Passengers, still no barricades. Still no indication. The station wasn't in use. The tunnel hummed. A train was approaching. Relief surged through me. It didn't matter if the station was closed. I just needed to get back on. The hum grew louder, closer, but the sound was wrong. Too smooth, too controlled. The lights dimmed further, then steadied. A voice spoke from the darkness beyond the tracks. Not the PA system, not overhead, from somewhere inside the station itself. You're not supposed to be here yet. I froze. The voice wasn't angry. It wasn't threatening. It sounded patient. I just need the train, I said. The words felt small in the space. There was a pause, long enough for my heartbeat to feel intrusive. It doesn't stop here anymore, the voice replied. The tunnel went silent. No approaching train, no vibration, nothing. That single quotes. When I noticed the footprints leading from the far end of the platform up to the edge, stopping just short of where I stood. They were old, worn, pressed deep into the concrete, like someone had stood there for a very long time, and next to them new ones, barely formed, still fresh, facing the same direction, facing the tracks. Didn't step away from the footprints. I couldn't. The longer I stared at them, the more I understood what they were. Not tracks from walking, not movement. Waiting. The older prints were worn smooth, edges softened by time. Like someone had stood there so long the concrete had learned the shape of their feet. The newer ones were different, sharper, incomplete, as if whoever made them hadn't been there very long, as if they'd only just arrived. Who's here? I asked. My voice echoed too much. The station didn't seem built to answer questions. The voice came again. Closer now, still calm, still patient. This station was removed from the system, it said, but it couldn't be erased. I swallowed. Removed how? For safety, the voice replied. For consistency. The lights above the platform flickered gently, like something breathing. People used to wait here, the voice continued. They stood too close, too tired, too late. The footprints seemed to darken slightly as it spoke. When the station closed, it said, some of them didn't leave. I felt cold creep up my spine. You mean they died? A pause. No, the voice said. They were missed. The tunnel hummed again, low, distant, but not approaching. You were rerouted here, the voice said, just like they were. I backed away from the edge, slowly. The new footprints shifted, not moved, adjusted. You're early, the voice added. That's good. What happens if I stay? I asked. The lights dimmed further. Someone has to remain, the voice said, until the next correction. The meaning settled, slowly, heavily. I turned and ran for the stairs. The gate was fully down now. I grabbed it and pulled. It resisted, just enough to make me panic. Behind me, the footprints deepened, pressed harder. "I don't belong here," I said, breath shaking. "That's what they said." The voice replied. I forced the gate upward with everything I had. Metal screamed. The lights flared. The moment I crossed the threshold, the station went dark behind me, completely. I didn't stop running until I reached street level. Didn't look back. Didn't slow down the next day. I checked the transit map. That station wasn't listed. Not as closed, not as under construction. It simply wasn't there. I contacted customer service. They told me the system had rerouted me incorrectly. A known issue, a glitch. They apologized. Weeks later, I noticed something new in the app. A small warning beneath. Late night routes. Easy to miss. Service adjustments. May include inactive platforms. I don't take late trains anymore. Don't follow reroutes. Don't trust empty platforms. And when a train stops somewhere unfamiliar, I stay on board, no matter what, because I know some stations don't close. They just wait. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. Terramouth.